Attorney,
good evening. I'm not sure exactly where to start. I guess I'll start in 1977, a little earlier. I grew up as a very physical, athletic kid with a tremendous interest in mechanics. So my future was set to be involved in athletics and mechanical engineering, which is eventually what I did. And I was a technocrat to the extreme. In 1977, as it turned out, I met a rabbi. He's the rabbi who started up a yeshiva, Yeshivat Or Sameach, for whoever knows that yeshiva. That's the rabbi who converted or had what is among others, Choser B'Tshuva, which is
all the Bohemians.
All the Bohemians at the time. And I had a conversation with him at the time. I was 23 at the time, 24 at the time. And I said to him, look, I don't care about anything. I can solve any problem. I was on my way to getting my mechanical engineering degree. I can solve anything and everything. And he said to me something that stayed with me for actually the rest of my life. And that was, look, you can invent and do and solve everything. At the time, I did not want to have anything to do with humanities studies. I went through my teens reading a tremendous amount of books. I was born in Romania. I've been reading since about the age of 3, and I can't even begin to tell you how much I've read. And I didn't want to have anything to do with humanities. And he said, look, you can solve anything and everything, but who is going to determine how to use whatever it is that you invent? Who is going to be the one who guides your thinking so that you use it for the good of people? It hit me like a ton of rocks. I had never thought about that. Not only that, he said something that outright insulted my intelligence initially. He said, look, you're playing with your brains like it's a game. But ultimately, that thinking that you're doing is your brain is using the thinking, it needs it like a steak. You need to eat something for your stomach, and you're playing games with your brain, solving all sorts of problems, but that's just feeding your brains to just feed it for whatever it needs. This thing stayed with me for, like I said, for my entire life. Eventually, I got my engineering degree. I went to the United States. I worked as an engineer for many years. And that's where I encountered problems of environment, because I was associated with the mining industry. And the mining industry is an industry that creates a tremendous amount of pollution. And it creates a tremendous amount of environmental degradation. So I ended up being connected to the Bureau of Reclamation in the United States, which is what reclaims the land that the mining processes destroy. And I've become aware of things that I had never been aware before. First Lebanon War comes in the 80s. I'm a member of the ADL, which is the Anti-Defamation League at the time, and I end up speaking on behalf of Israel with basically the highest echelon of the Air Force in the United States. I was living in Colorado at the time, and the Laurie Air Force Base was about 35 kilometers from miles from where I lived. I was invited to speak with them, and I had a presentation, And that's how I got involved into speaking with the public. Jumping ahead, years go by and I come to Israel. One of the books that I read at the time, there were a number of books, but one of the books that set the stage for what is happening these days was a book by, I think it was Emmanuel Sivan. At any rate, the name of the book was Islamic Zealots. Oh, it was from Sifriyat Amoved. That's who published the book. And that's where I got my first understanding of how Islam works. I then subsequently ended up I never finished it, but I started reading a translation of the Quran, so I get a better understanding of the things that I'm meeting, that I'm facing. And then subsequently, having had an experience with the wars in Israel, I also read a book named The Arab Mind Considered, which I eventually ended up teaching. Long story short, and I'll cut it here in 2 more sentences, when October 7 came along, I knew that I am facing a group of people that will absolutely never, ever change their intention to destroy Israel. Ever. It's not going to happen. Take away any hope, because it's an empty hope. With respect to the WHO, being a not very disciplined, socially disciplined person, I realized and understood right away, because I was very critical of how people operate and how the government operates. Having been born in Romania, I can sense through my pores, truly, when I encounter totalitarian regimes. I saw the totalitarianism in its making.
Wow.
Between the two, here I am.
Wow.